Well, as you can see, it's winter in Castle Donington. And I don't know about you, I can't stand winter. Oh, by the way, I'm Peter Fox, and I'm coming to you on behalf of St Edward's Castle Donington. I have to tell you that, because although lots of you have been here before, some of you may be here for the first time. You might have just wandered in here. In fact, you might be lost. If you aren't one of my regulars, can I just ask you, how did you get in here? Never mind, you're very welcome. But the weather isn't. The weather is awful. I mean, I wouldn't mind winter so much. I wouldn't mind this kind of winter day so much. If we just had a bit of snow even. I mean, I quite like snow. Snow at least makes it pretty. I mean, you know, if you're going to be this cold, you may as well be having fun with it, but it's not so much deep and crisp and even. It's more mucky and murky and moist. You've probably gathered I'm not a winter bunny. In fact, I even had cold feet when I was born. I hate the cold. I'm like that polar bear in the story. I can't stand it when it's cold. But there you are. I don't know how you feel about winter. I can't stand the long winter nights and the not being able to go out and play as much as I'd like to. If you think back, winter for us is nothing like it used to be for our ancestors. I mean, we've got double glazing and central heating, keep our houses warm. We've got electric lighting so we can make the day as long or as short as we want it to be. We've got television, radio and books, so we don't have to be bored when we're stuck inside. For us, winter's just an irritation. Can you imagine what it was like for our forefathers? Can you imagine what it was like before the double glaze and central heating, before the electricity, before the television and the radio and the books? It must have been, winter must have been a kind of frozen hell. It wasn't just the cold, it was the dark. It wasn't just the dark, it was the fear. Winter began with the slaughter. As winter drew near, all your animals had to be killed, all except a few that were going to be kept for breeding the next year. Most of them died because that was going to be your food supply for the winter. It was going to be those animals, the flesh of those animals, salted or dried or pickled. Everything you ate was going to be preserved in some way. Nothing was fresh, nothing was new, and it had to be carefully rationed so you didn't just run out of food altogether in the middle of winter. So the diet wasn't all that great. And on top of everything else, there was the fear. During those long, dark nights, as you were huddled together around your one meagre fire, you could hear out in the woods the howl of a hungry wolf. And you knew that it was dangerous anywhere beyond that firelight. It was dangerous because there were wolves and there were outlaws, hungry and looking for food. And you might just be on the menu yourself. Clustered together as you were, huddled together with your family, the very best of families will find that a strain. All those long hours together with nothing to do. It was a bad time, difficult time. And that's why, long, long ago, they began to set aside just one day, one night, in the very, very midst, the darkest days of winter. One day for feasting. It was a day for eating the very best of what supplies you had left. It was a day for lighting torches. It was a day for burning the bonfire, larger, brighter than normal. You'd bring in a great Yule log, which you'd light there. And you kept this festival of Yule. It was the whole festival was about hope, really, because one of the dreadful things about winter when you were our ancestors, somewhere at the back of your mind, there always lurked a dreadful fear that maybe this year the sun would not come back. You had no reason to take it for granted. that the winter would ever end. And this one festival in the midst of winter was about a longing for that sunlight to return, for the grass to grow again, for the plant life to grow again, for the animals, the wildlife to come back again, for an end to this endless frozen night. And that was the beginning of Yuletide. We call it Christmas. We still keep all sorts of signs amongst the things we do at Christmas time that remind us of that time. I mean, think of the the chocolate Yule log, which reminds you of the great log that used to be burned on the bonfire on that Yuletide night. We still have the Christmas pudding, and we set it ablaze, a sort of symbol of the returning sunshine, the returning sun. And we still decorate our houses. I mean, we would decorate our houses with store-bought decorations where they would use, clusters of ivy and clumps of holly to try and brighten up their huts, their dwelling places in the midst of that winter. This was part of us for so far back, long before any kind of recorded history. This fear in the midst of winter and this hope for the return of the spring is so much a part of us. There's even evidence of it in the form of Stonehenge, Avebury, Darrington Walls, all of which speak to this celebration in the midst of winter. So it's part of us, time out of mind. But 2,000 years ago, something wonderful happened. Jesus was born. Oh, he wasn't born in Europe in the midst of winter. He was born far away in the Middle East, and we don't even know what date he was born. But when Christians wanted to celebrate the birth of Jesus, they chose that very date, the 25th of December, the day of the midwinter festival. They chose that day to celebrate the birth of Jesus. And I think that was a very inspired choice. Because the coming of Jesus was like the coming of light in the midst of darkness. It was like hope in the midst of winter. So Jesus became, as it were, that shining light in the dark. And that's how our Christmas, came to be. Imagine a winter without Christmas. Imagine a life without Jesus. God bless.